Has this ever happened to you? I wonder how much is in my bank account right now. Let me check. What if I told you that you could fix this problem with just $100? I've got 5 suggestions on things that you could purchase, and they're all less than 20 bucks, and they're gonna fix this problem. I made more money in March of this year than I have made in any other month of my entire life. After the busy season was over, we sat down and we did our finances and crunched our numbers, and we realized, oh my gosh, we had spent everything. Like literally everything that I had earned extra, we just spent it because there was always an excuse. To our horror, we were in the exact same spot after our busy season as we were before our busy season. So essentially, I had worked 400 hours in 7 weeks and had made 0 financial progress. Talk about a frustrating situation. So at that moment, there was just this complete sense of hopelessness, and that's probably something that a lot of you guys can relate to. And we just came to the realization, we don't know anything about money. Here I was, a 28-year-old man, coming to the realization that just because I had been a grown-up for 10 years does not mean that I knew anything about money. And that's a really hard realization to come to. Now, I know this may be really hard for a lot of you guys to hear, but honestly, if your net worth's under like 100 grand, then you probably don't know anything about money. And if it's under $500,000, you probably don't know a ton about money. And this is truer the older you get. The older you are and the less net worth that you have, you just got to come to this realization you probably don't know how to handle money and the best way to use it. And this is a super hard realization to make. I mean, this cuts deep. It cuts deep in our pride. I mean, we all want to be knowledgeable, intelligent, savvy people, especially with something as important as money. And coming to the realization that I'm a novice, that I don't know anything, and make that admission, it really hurts. So admitting that you don't know that much about money is really the first step. But what do you do after that? Well, this is really where our 5 suggestions come in on how you're going to educate yourself. So ultimately what Maddie and I decided was that we need to buy some books and educate ourselves on how money works. And so here's the 5 books that I liked as we were going through this whole process. And the first one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Robert does this really amazing job of breaking us from this mental prison of personal finance. It's not a highly technical book, but it really is kind of a starter to thinking about money differently than the way other people think about money. The second book that I'm going to recommend is Money, Master the Game by Tony Robbins. This book was honestly my absolute favorite of all the money books that I've read so far. Well, Tony can be a little long-winded at times. He's also extremely motivational, and he's got all these fantastic motivational stories. Ultimately, this was the book that helped give Maddie and I the motivation and the vision to kick our $600 a month eating out habit. The third book I'm going to suggest to you is One Page Financial Plan by Carl Richards. Now, this is also just a great book because one thing that happens when we really start getting into personal finance and budgeting and all that stuff is we make all these plans and then none of them come to fruition because we've made too many plans. What he does is he's like, okay, he lays out a template and he says, this is what you should have on your 1-page financial plan. And when you need motivation, you look at it. Oh, this is the life that we're trying to obtain. That this is why we're doing this. The fourth book I'm going to suggest to you is Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now, if you're in tons of debt, this is probably the book for you because Dave Ramsey is the absolute king at motivating people to get out of debt. Now, I don't agree with a lot of what Dave Ramsey says after you've gotten out of debt. But there's no doubt that he is absolutely the king of helping to motivate people to get out of debt. And that's because he's a great example of somebody who went bankrupt because of debt himself. And the fifth book that I'm going to suggest is How to Make Your Money Last by Jane Bryant Quinn. And this is a book, especially if you're older or getting closer to retirement, 10, 15 years away from retirement. And she walks you through the exact specifics of, Social Security, insurance in retirement, all these things. And they're really fantastic. And I think you should read it if you're younger, just so that you know. What's also great about this sphere, this personal finance sphere, is that there's a ton of free resources available as well. So I listen to a show called The Money Guy Show 3 times a week and the Personal Finance Podcast twice a week. And these are free. I just listen to them on Spotify. And they walk you through, so many different topics. And I truly believe that you are what you consume. So, I mean, if you consume garbage, you're going to behave and think like garbage. But if you consume great positive content, like things like the Money Guy Show and the Personal Finance Podcast, you're going to start thinking about personal finance and behaving correctly when it comes to personal finance. These podcasts will keep your motivation high because it's just going to be that constant reminder, hey, Why am I saving money? Oh, so I can live that good life here in the future. Ultimately, what I'm telling you is this. Humble yourself and admit that you probably don't know that much about money. Take $100, buy a few books on personal finance, and start getting yourself onto that correct path. And you're going to be amazed. Once you go through these books, your motivation is going to be so high. You're going to be like, I'm going to get all my money and I'm going to put it in the right places and I'm going to pay off debt and then I'm going to start investing and 10 years from now we'll be millionaires and it'll be so great. And you're just going to have this fantastic, fantastic motivation. Now, we've just talked about the importance of financial education. And so we actually have this video right here that talks about health savings accounts and how you can save up to $1,500 on medical bills by using and taking advantage of an HSA. I think it's a perfect place for you to start your financial education. So click on this video and learn how you can save a bunch of money.